Video number 4, where we left off last time. Your job was to finish putting in the cams. The order doesn't matter, the color of the cams doesn't matter. So hopefully you have everything in your box and these cams are fixed in place. If you're wanting to kind of test that out, left click on the arrow, try to get on that little flag, and then right click to animate the joint relationships, and you should see all of your cams turning. The only one that looks like it's not moving is the circular one, because there would be no change as we noticed on our motion graphs for that circle cam. So everything is working just fine. Now, the last thing that we need to do on this box assembly is to make sure that these followers will actually ride on the sides, or some people might call them the edges, of these cams. So the way that we're going to do that is really pretty quick. We're going to click on the Assemble button and choose Tangent Relationship. So once you select that, the first piece you must select is the bottom of the follower. Got to get that picked first. Then onto the nice smooth edge that it's planning to ride on, and then click OK. If everything is correct, it should just snap to it. No warnings, no errors. If something weird does happen, you might need to ask for help because there might be something else preventing it from connecting like that. So we're going to do that 6 times over. Tangent the bottom of the follower to a nice edge. Sometimes if it doesn't like that it's on a particular point, it might give you an error. And so then in that case, we might need to double click on the rotation flag and change the degree of rotation like to 20 degrees or something like that to try to make it work better. So let's go ahead and continue to tangent bottom of the follower to a nice smooth side of the cam. Number 4. Yeah, just make sure it gets on there. Yep. Yeah, so like this hexagon cam, this might give me some trouble. I'm not entirely sure. Yep, so it gave me that warning. And if that's the case, double click and change the angle of rotation. Yeah, so I put in 50 degrees and it made it so that it's kind of facing this way. So let's go ahead and tangent. Whoa. If you click something weird, either exit or hit cancel. No, I'm still in the tangent relationship. Now I'm out. There we go. Yeah, okay. So then it works just fine once you get it partially rotated so that it can land nicely instead of on a point or too close to a pointed piece. Okay, so once you have all 6 on there, let's go ahead and animate all joints. Again, looking for that flag, animate joint relationships. And then you can see how the followers react, right? The snail cam is the most weird, I don't know, because it doesn't do anything and then all of a sudden it pops down, right? It might slowly grow and pop down, but everything else is running just like it should. All right, so hit save, make sure you have that. And now we're ready to start the documentation process. So building it was not the be-all, end-all. We have some documents to put together. One is the title page. So just using our template that we've made and a picture of our automata, get a nice text box and title in there. And it can be vertical. This one is vertical. It's kind of nice for the front of a portfolio to be vertical instead of horizontal. You'll notice that the rest of them are horizontal. So let's go back to Fusion and see if we can do that. So we're not going to open our template that we made. Remember, the way that we create a drawing file is to click on the design button, choose drawing from design, and over here, instead of template from scratch, you might need to browse and go find your template. There we go, PHS title block. This is the one that I made last year. Apparently I haven't made a new one. So let's go ahead and click on that. And it does take some time to think because it's bringing in not only your template, but it's also bringing in an assembly that has a lot of components to it. It would probably be good if I clicked OK. Slight details. It does still take a little bit of time, but you know. Maybe I can edit that part out. Okay, so here we have it. I'm going to go ahead and place that and choose OK, even though I don't want that view, but we can always get rid of it, right? I can hit delete, but all this stuff is still actually here. So I'm going to delete all of that too. I don't want that. So if you do want to turn this vertically, open up the arrow next to sheet settings, and across sheet size, click on the pencil. And here's where we can change it to be 8.5 by 11 so that it's portrait instead of landscape. Okay, so everything has already been imported with, created by, what's the title, and so on. Okay, so now let's go ahead and click on base view, and I don't want this whatever front, the front that's coming in. If I choose home, my home looks really kind of wonky, so I'm actually going to cancel that. And occasionally in the process of applying some joints, sometimes things get kind of weird, like this is really tilted, so instead I might pivot this thing around a little bit by clicking on the view cube, and I'm going to set current view as home. Excuse me, set current view as front, rather. And then that does look better. I think that looks right for the isometric. So I'm going to set current view as home fixed distance. I think that's fine. And then I'll click save. And then over here, I do need to update because it's referencing and pulling from my assembly. So now when I choose base and I select home, this isometric is a lot nicer. I do want the scale to be bigger, like maybe a 1:1 scale. No, that's too big. So yeah, a little trial and error, maybe 1:2. There, that looks really, really good. So go ahead and place that. We do want it to be, colored, but just shaded. I don't want any hidden edges. I just want it to look like a regular isometric that's been shaded. So that looks good. And now to apply, text, let's create a text box and specify the corners. And we can choose a different font. We can choose a different size. It has some recommendations here, I guess. And so, yeah, you can type in, Automata project. That is way too big. Let's undo that. Let's go back to 0.12. You might have to do some highlighting. Yeah. Well, 0.12 is tiny, so okay. I thought it was going to be that big. No? Okay. Intro to engineering design. Mrs. Arndt. Today's date, which is the 15th today. You can center, but again, you'll need to do some highlighting to center some things. And then, you might have to just kind of experiment with that. And, well, that looks pretty good the way that I put it, even though it looks totally different, when you're typing. Okay, so 0.25 seemed like a pretty decent size in there. So go ahead and hit save. And this is saving it as assembly drawing. I might change it to automata drawings. And you'll notice I made that plural because here's how we're going to add to our drawings. So this is file number 1. We're going to choose the plus sign down at the bottom, this quick add, because what it does, it just automatically creates another sheet for us. But we do want this one to be horizontal. So let's change it back to 11 by 8.5. And now we're looking at a nice horizontal component. All right, so what's next? We have the title page done. Everything looks good. Page 2, box assembly with all views. And so that really does mean all. Front, right, top, bottom, left, back. Okay, so it's setting up all 6 views, not just the usual 3 that we have. So let's go ahead and base a view. This is the front view, and it's a 1:4, so let's leave it at that. And we'll click OK, and we can, of course, move it. And every time we base a view, all of this stuff comes up because it's showing everything, right? If you hover over it, it shows it. If you want to hide something, you can toggle it off, and it will suppress it. But we want to keep everything on because we want to see all of the views of the box. So if you're done with something, you might just kind of wrap it all up with the little arrow there. And now we can project more views off of this one. So top view, right view, bottom view, left view. If we keep dragging, it does not change to back view. Okay, so let's do the isometric. Then you can either hit the checkbox or enter. And we can, of course, move things as we need. The rest of these are all kind of tied together. And so I definitely want to get that back view in there. So I'm going to try to project view from this side, the left side, and here comes the back view. Okay, so all of that looks good, except the isometric needs to be shaded. So be sure to click shaded and hit close. And now this looks to be exactly what we needed with all of these views. Go back and check out the example. Yep, everything is in place. Isometric is shaded. So I think we're good. Let's hit save. And so what's nice about this is that every drawing file then is saved in the same place. It is all in this one file that I titled Automata Drawings because they're just down here at the bottom. If you have an extra one, we ended up not using that one, hit delete. That way, here's our first one, here's our second one, and let's do a quick add. And it comes in horizontal because we were sitting on that second one that was already horizontal. So let's use this and see what's next. Page 3. Be sure to put in the bottom, one side, the top, and the back. Label and dimension each one. So there's an example of just the bottom being on here. But again, we need to put in a side, a top, and a back. Label and dimension each one. Add a parts list, then double click to edit the column. Be sure your parts are named, right? So we were pretty specific when we were creating our files and our file names because we wanted to make sure they would show up correctly when it comes to this type of drawing file. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's hit base view and go ahead and click to place it and click OK. So yeah, we can get our isometric in there because we do need an isometric. So let's project a view. And there we go. Press enter. I'm not going to worry about this view for right this moment, but this view, if it's just the box parts, like it's just the back, front, right, I don't want all of this showing. So this particular assembly, right, it's being referenced, and so we only have one of them. But I want to keep the back, keep the bottom, left, right side, and top, but I don't want anything else to be showing. So I'm going to turn off everything else. And again, I'm using the check mark, not the eyeball, because I really want to actually suppress it as if it's not even here. Okay, so there's my box. I'm going to shade this one. The isometric needs to be shaded. And then this particular image, right, it's got all the parts on there, and it's being referenced by this. They're connected, so I don't really even want this. So delete that, and let's go ahead and base something new. So if I'm wanting like the back side, I might change it to say back. Yeah, back. Okay, and click OK. And now you'll notice every time I base something brand new, a whole extra set of stuff pops up. So if I just want the back, I'm going to right click on back and suppress all except selected. That way it automatically turns everything else off except for the back. So now I'm going to roll that up just to hide it, and maybe I'll scoot this over a little. So here's the back that I can dimension. So I've got 4 inches, 4 inches. And then let's go ahead and put in a text box. This doesn't have to be a huge text, but we do want it to say back. Okay, that seems pretty reasonable, right? That looks pretty close. Okay, that's the bottom. I did the back first, but as long as we get all the parts in there, like that's going to be fine. So we're going to do that same process every time. We're going to base a brand new view. It's going to bring everything in. If I want the bottom, right, so I double clicked on it. If I want the bottom, right, I might need to, yeah, choose bottom. And then I want to suppress everything except the selected. And again, you got to make sure you're in the correct drop down, right? This is assembly 10-5. So yeah, suppress everything except selected, then roll it up because we want to hide it so that we can get to the stuff for the next view that we bring in. So yeah, once again, dimension this, right? Give it a label because this is the bottom now. And do that 2 more times with one of the sides. So you can just call it side, and with the top, right? And the top will have a few more dimensions because of the holes that are on it. Right, so yeah, just go ahead and put all of that on this sheet. Try to arrange it, you know, if you need to scoot stuff over, just kind of drag everything. Yeah, just try to keep it nice and neat because we also need to have some space here for the parts list. So let's go ahead and choose table, and the type is going to be automatic, but let's choose parts list. We're going to select the isometric because that has all the parts on it, and go ahead and place it. And then, you know, it's super wide because there's this description here. So double click. Yeah, you got to have it kind of highlighted or scrolled over it so it's dark. Then double click on it and take description away. Material, like I didn't set my materials because we just set the appearances. So I might even hide that too. If you don't like the table direction, you can flip it because I kind of like my parts list on the top instead of like the title and stuff on the bottom, but it really doesn't matter. And then it goes through and it automatically balloons everything for you. So if you don't like where something is, you know, feel free to try to move it, especially this one that's off of the page. Like, yeah, let's at least get it on the page. I think you can even move, yeah, where it's pointing to. So yeah, just something to kind of play with and keep in mind that you can make lots of changes happen here. I don't like where it's putting this arrow. I don't want it to be on the hole. Again, you can play with this. You can decide how you want it to look. Don't forget to put one of the sides and then the top in there with all of their dimensions. And then page 3 will be complete. This is it for this video. I'll see you in the next one for the next drawing.